Okay, let's jump right into a fascinating historical puzzle. It's one of those questions that, on the surface, seems pretty simple, but once you start digging, it reveals something really fundamental about how power actually works.
So here's the mystery we're going to unravel today. After Alexander the Great conquered this enormous Persian Empire, he suddenly died. Now, you would expect total chaos, right? Widespread rebellion? But the heart of his new empire stayed quiet. And this isn't some new question. Turns out a political genius was obsessed with this exact same problem 500 years ago.
I mean, really, try to picture it. The year is 323 BC. The most famous conqueror the world has ever seen is suddenly gone. And his top generals? They pretty much immediately start fighting each other for control. It is the perfect power vacuum. So why on earth didn't the people of Persia grab this golden opportunity to rise up and take their freedom back?
To get our answer, we've got to fast forward a long way, almost 2,000 years, all the way to Renaissance Italy. And there we meet a brilliant, and let's be honest, a pretty bitter political analyst. This was a man who became obsessed with one thing: how you win power, and maybe even more important, how you hold on to it.
This is Niccolò Machiavelli. Now, for 14 years, he was a big deal, a top diplomat for the Republic of Florence. But then the government changed, and his whole world just imploded. He was fired, accused of plotting against the new regime, thrown in prison, and tortured. When he finally got out, he was exiled to his farm, stripped of everything. So he started writing. And for him, this wasn't some academic exercise. This was personal. It was a desperate attempt to figure out the brutal, real-world mechanics of political survival.
And it's from that really dark place, that exile, that he writes his most famous, or maybe infamous work, The Prince. And in it, he breaks down this problem in such an interesting way. He looks past the individual ruler, their charisma, their cruelty, their genius, and instead he focuses on the underlying structure of the states they're trying to control.
He basically says, look, all kingdoms are built in one of two ways. And his crucial insight is this: the very structure of that kingdom is what decides how hard it is to conquer, and then, once you've got it, how easy or hard it is to keep.
And to make this super clear, he uses two examples from his own time. First, you've got the Ottoman Empire, what he called his Turkish model. This is a centralized state. All power flows from one person, the Sultan. Everyone else is just his servant. And on the other side, you've got the Kingdom of France, a decentralized state. Here, the king has to share power with these hereditary barons, who have their own lands, their own power, and the loyalty of the people who live there.
So Machiavelli's take is that the centralized state is a real nightmare to conquer. And why is that? Well, you can't just find some unhappy local lord to give you a secret way in. The entire state is unified against you. You have to face all of its power, all at once on the battlefield.
But, and here's the twist, if you can pull it off, if you can beat that army and get rid of the king's family, you're golden. The whole kingdom is yours. The key is, once you remove that single point of authority at the top, there's no one else left. There are no other local power centers with the clout to lead a rebellion. The entire structure just falls right into your hands.
All right, now let's flip the coin. A decentralized state like France, he argues, is actually easier to conquer, but it brings a completely different set of problems for whoever's trying to invade.
See, getting in is the easy part. Why? Because you can almost always find some local lord who's got a grudge against the king, someone willing to open the gates for you. But, and this is a huge but, once you're in charge, you've inherited that same mess. The barons who helped you can turn on you just as fast, because in a state with lots of little power centers, there are always seeds of rebellion waiting to sprout.
Okay, so we've got the theory, centralized versus decentralized. Now for the payoff. Let's see how this framework cracks the code on our original puzzle about Alexander the Great.
And this is where Machiavelli just lays it all out. He applies his theory directly, and he writes, if we go back now to the Kingdom of Darius, we'll find that it was of the Turkish variety. It was a centralized state. And boom, as soon as you see it through that lens, it all makes perfect sense.
Think about it. The Persian Empire, Darius' kingdom, it was totally centralized. All power flowed from the king. His governors out in the provinces, they were just appointed servants, not powerful lords in their own right. So once Alexander smashed the Persian army and Darius was out of the picture, there was nobody left to rally a new fight. Alexander basically just cut the head off the snake, and the body was his to command.
And you know what proves this? What happened after Alexander died. The real threat, the only serious trouble his successors had in holding on to Persia, came from each other. The danger was a civil war among the conquerors themselves, not some popular uprising from the people they'd conquered, because the Persians had no alternative leaders to rally behind.
And this is such a great contrast to, say, the Romans. Why did Rome have to fight for centuries to finally lock down places like Gaul and Spain? Well, because those places were decentralized, just like Machiavelli's France, full of independent tribes and powerful local chieftains. Rome had to put down one rebellion after another for generations. So Alexander's long-term success wasn't just about him being a military genius, which he absolutely was. It was baked right into the very structure of the empire he conquered.
All right, so what does all this mean? What's the big takeaway from this, 500-year-old piece of political analysis for us today?
Well, Machiavelli's big point is that we get way too hung up on the leader. He argues that whether you succeed or fail in holding power often comes down to the different kinds of state they had invaded. And that idea that the invisible underlying structure of a system is often more important than the person at the top, that has huge implications, far beyond ancient empires. It's a lens you can apply to almost anything, from a company takeover to a political campaign.
And that really leaves us with this one big, kind of unsettling question. We spend so much time analyzing leaders, right? Their decisions, their charisma, their flaws. We debate, can this new CEO save the company, or can this new president fix the country? But what if Machiavelli was right? What if the game is rigged from the start by the system itself? Is the hidden structure of power still more important than the person who holds it?
If you enjoyed this summary and want to explore the complete book, you'll find the link in the description below. Thank you so much for watching, and happy reading.